What's up, EFD squad? Today, me and my Tash are running through 10 moments Real Madrid fans have blocked from their minds. Let's refresh their memories. 10. Barcelona 5, Real Madrid 0. You're returning to one of your previous employers and you've led your team to their best ever start to a season. This was the situation facing Jose Mourinho in November 2010 in the first El Clasico of the season. With an estimated TV audience of 400 million, the special one wanted to make a statement. But he didn't just lose, he suffered a complete and utter humiliation as his Real Madrid side were torn apart 5-0 at the Nou Camp. Xavi, winner of numerous titles in a World Cup, still calls it his favourite ever performance. It was a disaster for Mourinho. His players, fresh from playing with many of Barca's star at the World Cup, offered too much respect to them and lost their heads late on once Sergio Ramos had been sent off. Pedro's second goal was scored after 22 passes in just under a minute. Barcelona had embarrassed Real Madrid and set the tone for the next few years that saw them win 5 of the next 7 La Liga titles at the expense of their historic rivals. 9. Lost in Europe. But Real's first significant humiliation at the hands of Barcelona came back in 1960. Although the scoreline was nowhere near the drubbing they faced in 2010, it arguably hurt more, as this came in the European Cup, a competition in which Real Madrid were invincible in during the time. After its inception in 1955, Los Blancos had lifted the big-eared cup on every single occasion when they were drawn against a resurgent Blaugrana in the first round of the tournament's 6th edition. Barca had won the last 2 La Ligas, but had been nowhere near a match for Real on the European stage, until now. They held their rivals 2-2 at the Bernabeu before sealing the tie in front of 120,000 spectators at the Camp Nou with a 2-1 victory. Madrid's legendary strike partnership of Di Stefano and Puskás were nowhere to be seen, recording no goals in either match. And the loss clearly had an effect on the club's confidence. Having won 5 European Cups in 5 years, they triumphed just once more in the 38 years following that night in Barcelona. 8 and 7, Iker Casillas and Keylor Navas. Fast forward to 2015 and we have a case of Real Madrid truly getting their comeuppance. Just a year after captaining the side to a 10th European Cup, Iker Casillas has been shown the door, and in pretty humiliating fashion too. The club's greatest ever keeper had given 25 years of his life to Real, and in return, he had to give a farewell press conference with no support from any of the club's hierarchy. Casillas broke down in tears and left behind a legacy of 725 appearances and 18 trophies to minimal fanfare. Allegedly, never a big fan of the keeper, Florentino Perez finally got his way. To make up for the loss of Casillas, Los Blancos were confident of securing the stopper of their dreams. David De Gea was the man in question, and by the end of August, a deal was all but done for the Spaniard to return to the capital for 22 million plus Keylor Navas, despite Manchester United's reluctance to take the Costa Rican on board. The deal fell through due to an administrative failure on United's side, where effort to seal Anthony Martial's signature delayed proceedings, and Madrid were left to rue not putting in a better offer earlier in the summer. The club may have been humiliated, but not as much as Keylor Navas, who was truly messed around by being left with the prospect of being sold against his will before learning he was actually staying. The keeper later said he cried when he heard the news. 6. Ramos sees red. It may seem stupid to include a defender who scored in 2 Champions League finals, but Sergio Ramos is a special case, and his presence on this list comes down to more than one single moment. Ramos has no doubt been one of Madrid's most important figures this century, but it's not always been for the right reasons. Since becoming a Madrista in 2005, the centre-back has been shown 23 red cards, with over half of them coming before the age of 25. And the Real captain saved his hot-headedness for games in which he was most needed. Nearly a quarter of his red cards have come against Barcelona, and of those 5 matches, his team have won just once. Sure, he's been sent off a few times, but as we said, he's also won him a few trophies, so we'll let you off, Sergio. 5. Odense. You'd be forgiven for having never heard of Danish club Odense Boldklub. They rarely feature in European competition, record average attendances of less than 6,000, and last won their domestic league in 1989. But back in the 90s, the port city was put firmly on the footballing map following a classic encounter with Real Madrid. Odense reached the first round of a European competition for the first time in their history in the 1994 edition of the UEFA Cup. And with a Los Blancos side featuring Laudrup, Redondo and Raul in waiting for them, it looked like the party would stop there and then. But after a narrow 3-2 loss at home, Odense had hope. And in the second leg at the Bernabeu, they ran out 2-0 winners, aided by depleted Real Madrid support, which amounted to just 30,000. It remains the club's most humbling experience on the European stage. 4. Ronaldinho and Eto'o. Real Madrid's Galacticos era was a time of overinflated fees, egos and vanity, and this couldn't be clearer in the case of Ronaldinho. Despite being one of the world's greatest players who would go on to win the Ballon d'Or 2 years later, Real Madrid turned down the chance to sign PSG's mercurial Samba King in favour of David Beckham, Golden Balls himself. The reason? Ronaldinho's looks. An associate of President Florentino Perez told a Spanish newspaper he advised Los Blancos not to sign Ronaldinho because he was so ugly he'd sink you as a brand. In the 2005-06 season, the Blaugrana showed Real the error of their ways. They romped to their second successive league title by an astonishing 12 points, with Ronaldinho and Eto'o, who'd been let go by Madrid 5 years earlier, proving to be their star performers. To rub salt in the wounds, Ronaldinho put in a stunning performance during the November 2005 El Clasico at the Bernabeu and received an unprecedented standing ovation, putting one firmly in the eye of Perez. 3. The fans versus Ronaldo. The stupidly high standards, or just plain stupidity, of some Real Madrid fans is no secret, with some going as far as to attack players' cars as they leave the stadium after defeats. But the most embarrassing aspect of that hardcore culture at the Bernabeu is their treatment of the club's record goal scorer, Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo has been at the very centre of Los Blancos' success since he joined the club in 2009, scoring countless pivotal goals and single-handedly dragging the club to Champions League glory in 2017. But somehow, this hasn't earned him the full respect of the club's so-called ultras. He's been subject to boos and whistles from a minority in the stadium for a number of years now. Fans of Los Merengues certainly have a strange way of showing encouragement. And in 2017, the Portuguese maestro finally got his own back, scoring a hat-trick to defeat Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarter-final, at which point he told the crowd to be quiet, putting them firmly in their place. 2. Alcorcon. Talking of the crowd being silenced, Real Madrid were dealt arguably their biggest ever humiliation at the hands of local minnows Alcorcon in 2009. The third-tier side, based in the suburbs of the Spanish capital, hosted Los Blancos in the Copa del Rey fourth round, welcoming the likes of Ruud van Nistelrooy, Marcelo, Karim Benzema and Raul to their 5,000 capacity ground. And the impossible happened. Alcorcon were ruthless, going 3-0 up at half-time before adding another in the second period. Somehow, a team with a combined salary of less than 1 million had battered aside, earning over 100 times that into submission. The occasion became so infamous that it even got its own name, the Alcorconazo, or something like that. Merengues manager Manuel Pellegrini pulled out Gonzalo Higuain and 56 million Mankaka for the return leg at the Bernabeu, but it was nowhere near enough, as a late Van der Vaart strike handed the hosts a pathetic 1-0 victory. They were booed off, Alcorcon were given a standing ovation, and Pellegrini somehow kept his job until the end of the season. 1. Denis Cheryshev. But in 2015, Real Madrid didn't even have to lose to be knocked out of the Copa del Rey. Instead, they made a mistake you'd expect of a non-league club, not a mammoth institution worth $3.6 billion. They travelled down to Cadiz this time, and Rafa Benitez did the honourable thing by offering a B-team graduate, Denis Cheryshev, a rare start. He repaid his manager in full, scoring after just 3 minutes, and Real ran out 3-1 victors, but it turned out the Russian winger should actually have been serving a ban, as he picked up 3 yellow cards in the competition the previous season while on loan at Villarreal. Despite the monumental cock-up, Florentino Perez accepted zero responsibility, despite the ban having been published online at the start of the season, instead blaming the player himself and the Yellow Submarine for not informing him personally. Real were eliminated from the competition with immediate effect, and to make matters even more embarrassing for the Real president, one fan even threatened to take legal action against him for losing the club revenue. Good on your son. Cheryshev, meanwhile, made just one more appearance for Los Blancos. So there are our 10 most embarrassing Real Madrid moments. What club should we do next? Maybe Barcelona, so I don't get smashed in the comments. And as always, guys, if you like this video, watch another one by clicking here, and don't forget to like and subscribe.